So we're back. Welcome to Build. Today is special for two reasons. First, I have Craig Daniel, our VP of Product and my boss here on Seeking Wisdom. And second, we're going to get into something that is probably the first thing I actually learned when I joined Drift, which is how to ship products on time. So Craig, welcome.
Hey, thanks.
So I want to get into the steps it takes to ship. I know you've done this presentation before, but first I wanted to dig into your background a little bit and hear how you got to the point where you had a thesis on this topic.
Yeah. So I've been working on software since the late 90s. And at first I was an engineer and we were using the waterfall methodology, the state of the art back in the 90s. And I always questioned, there has to be a better way because we were always missing our dates and customers were never happy and it was just super duper painful. And we were optimizing for hitting everything into Gantt chart rather than hitting actual what mattered. And so I was an avid reader, always have been, and found some books on Scrum, found the Agile Manifesto, and I ended up actually, you make fun of me for this, but I was an early adopter. I was a Scrum Master certified in the early 2000s.
Cutting edge at the time.
Yes. I was I was crazy at my company when I got certified. But really, it was just about learning there has to be a better way. And from there, went through kind of, another 20 books, extreme programming, Scrumban, Kanban, you name it. I've probably tried it with a team or two. And I think I've always believed in small autonomous teams, always believed in iterative processes, and really it evolved to that. And when I joined Drift, I learned from David and Elias how they worked at Drift, which married very well with some of the things that I learned in the past. And so I wouldn't say I kind of figured it out. I would say, David and Elias had their style, and my style is very, very complementary. And I think we've just have made it better every single month. Yeah,
and I remember when I joined, and you told me that we were going to ship a new product every single month for the entire year.
Yeah,
I didn't understand how that was possible.
Yeah, it's nuts, but it's fun. I think in the early days, we both of our founders are product people, and we're launching a new product in a new category, and the best way to demonstrate what it actually is by shipping new stuff, and so that's what we did, and we committed to the first Tuesday of every single month we're going to ship something new. And that was a forcing function to actually figure out how do you actually do that.
Right. So how do you actually do it?
Yeah. So that's a good. Other than I have a lot of gray hairs from doing that month over month here at Drift, but no, it's actually gets easier. Would you agree? It's gotten easier.
Yeah. I think you get used to the rhythm of it, but I still, even when we were talking about this before, even when I think back on the different steps, some of them I still have trouble wrapping my head around exactly how we do it.
Yeah, so follow kind of a formula that we train all new drifters on when they come on board. The first thing, it all comes back to constraints, right? So no matter what framework you have in product management, there's always do we have a date constraint? Do we have a feature constraint? Do we have a people constraint? And I think the two constraints that actually matter especially when you're launching a new product in a new category, or you're trying to build momentum, or if you're a new executive at a new job, let's say you went to a new company and it was Maggie's going to get our product team humming again. This is a really good way to do it. In the first 3 months, I'm going to ship three products, right? And you're going to be holy crap, that's amazing. But basically, it's commit to a date. Just find a date. Don't randomly pick a date. What we do is first Tuesday of every month. We don't have to think about that. That's just part of the system. Then name the thing that you're going to ship on that date. Just name it. That's your first constraint is what is it? Don't use names like V2, Next Gen, or any of those crutch names. Name something real, right? So find the essence of what you're trying to do. And then tell a simple story about it. This is a shorthand narrative, shorthand form of what Amazon does with the press release. But tell a story. And stories all, follow the story arc, right? Which is I always think current state of affairs, what's happening now, what's the conflict, what's the promise or claim, and then how do you resolve it, right? So tell the story in that format. We can walk through some of them.
Yeah.
And then just ship it on the date you promised, obviously. Notice in there's no feature, there's no widget, there's no user story, there's no whatever, because that's what really matters when you're trying to build momentum with customers or even with internal stakeholders, if you're trying to build momentum as well.
So how, when you're picking a date, so I understand obviously having lived through the first Tuesday of every month, but I think the way I thought before I was at Drift was, okay, we're gonna ship this feature, we're gonna provide this value for customers, but you don't know how hard it is to build that thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you haven't done an estimate with your engineering team or your design team, so you don't know how hard it is. I think that was the thing I had the most trouble with, was coming in, okay, it's gonna ship on this Tuesday, but how do we don't know how hard it is gonna build, so how can we possibly commit to that?
Yeah, so a lot of people who listen to this podcast are probably familiar with the Spotify graphic that's like skateboard, scooter, bike, car, that type of thing. And so I think that's a really good, and we've kind of leveraged that same framework. Right. So if we were using this format, right, we'd say we're going to ship on this day, we're going to ship transportation that gets you from point A to point B in under 5 minutes. Because today it takes 10 minutes, it's really painful, and that's what we're going to ship on this date, right? I didn't say I was going to ship the skateboard, the car, or the bike. I'm not sure yet, because I don't know what we're able to do. So the first thing that we do is, what's your version of that skateboard? What's the first thing? And we call it here the tracer bullet, which is a little bit of an agile term. But literally as fast as possible, get engineers to hack or do whatever it is to make the thing work end to end. Like no re-architecture, no nothing. So an example of that would be, we book meetings, right? And so we said, oh, we're going to ship a Office 365 bot book meetings feature. The very first thing we're going to do is we are going to buy an Office 365 license, and we're going to have a developer hack up the Google code in whatever way they can to make that connection work and see a meeting show up on their Office 365 calendar.
Right, so no front end, no UI, just meeting shows up on calendar end to end.
And they can sit there with the team and in their console or scripts or whatever and be like, check this out. If I run these 5 things and comment this line out, calendar event shows up. That immediately shows you as a product manager, okay, I'm pretty confident that in 6 weeks or 8 weeks, we can ship Office 365 calendar. Because I see we have it today. It's just about putting all the front end and the workflows and everything on it. So we call that the tracer bullet, and get that done as fast as possible.
Okay, so you do tracer bullet. Then we also, obviously, we call it good, better, best for the different pieces. So how, when you think about a team approaching a problem, how does that fit in?
Yeah, so the reason we introduced good, better, best was as a framework as we brought on new product managers, because I think experienced product managers know how to break down problems, like big, giant initiatives, into smaller things, but and senior designers as well. But as you scale a team, not everybody has that skill yet. So good, better, best was a forcing function to actually have people give 3 different versions of the same thing, right? So this is your skateboard, car, and bike, or bike and car, right? So we actually have our designers literally, as you know, design 3 different versions. Product managers write 3 different one-pagers, which are our versions of specs, for the good, better, or best. Because almost never do you want to ship the best, right? That's
I often find that we start with the best.
Yeah.
Like when you approach a problem, you have this big idea of what you're going to do, and you have this amazing design, it has all these bells and whistles, and then you look at it, and then you think about the date, and then you have to say, okay, well, this is obviously not possible, and half these features are sort of, wouldn't it be cool if bucket? So then good, better, best is at least a framework for me to say, okay, we might get there, but let's scale it back and pick the essential pieces.
Right, and you'll find, good still has to be something that backs up the story. It can't, it definitely can't compromise on the story. So, but it doesn't need to have all the bells and whistles, right? So in this case, to take the example we just had, right? Drift has bots that qualify leads and book meetings for them. It simply needs to grab an email address and create a calendar, pick a calendar availability and marry that email address to that calendar.
Right.
And that's it, right? And so like reduce down to that essence, and then when you ship it, validate to see if anyone cares. Mm-hmm. If anyone uses it, how many people connect it.
Right. So tell me a little bit more about the giving it a name and telling a story. I think those are two things that in addition to picking a date, were new to me in the role that they could play in getting a team to move quickly.
Yeah, the naming is really important. I learned this at my prior company, Log Me In, because I was on a relatively small business in the larger company, and there were lots of initiatives from 4 different business units, and the executives could never really keep track of everything.
Right.
And if you wanted to push your agenda, you had to give it a name. And I kind of learn a lot. I watch politics and stuff like that. If you look at any bills or anything like the ACA, they don't call it that. They call it Obamacare, right? They give it names. Like, and you look at like how you move your agenda. These politicians, they always give something a name other than the actual bill name that they hear. And so that's why I think naming is really important, is because it travels. It's a handle that everyone can grab onto. Salespeople can say, oh, when's the Office 365 meetings coming, right? Instead, we could have called that Meetings V2, which is, oh, now we're adding Office 365. So, but instead, just tell you what it is in as short amount as possible that everyone can grab onto, and it travels. And then when you have that, then you can use the gravity of the organization to kind of pull towards that.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's also something we started to do even inside of our individual product teams, where we started to give our metrics a tagline, because it, I think in the same way that it helps to have an organization understand what you're building and have like a catchy name for it. I think the teams do really well when they have, no customer left behind or no chat left behind or whatever those taglines are. It's much easier to focus on what you're doing because you all have that shared thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all about, this entire framework is about simplification and reduction, right? And I think naming is part of that.
Right.
Name is the simplest form of that story that you can tell.
Right. So then then the last part is ship it on the date you promised. What happens when there's inevitably, you uncover something that's harder than you thought, you run into some sort of issue, there's other things you're trying to maintain. Like, how do you keep the teams always hitting those dates?
Yeah, that's a little bit more art than science sometimes. I mean, the first part of, let's talk about the hard part of shipping on the date, which I think is like the go-to-market part of it, and then we'll come back to the engineering part of it. The reason, and this started before I joined Drift, the reason we pick like kind of the first Tuesday of every month is because no one had to communicate. It's another simplification. No one had to communicate when they had to start preparing, right? And so one of the challenges at any company is, let's say you're at a normal company, bigger company that does 2 or 3 releases a year, which is pretty typical. It's like, hey, when's that release coming out? When are we going to start planning it? Oh, should we start doing weekly? Should we do monthly? Right? And it's not a system. It's like a project every time. And so what we see here is our product literally it'll be Wednesday, the day after we shipped, and the product marketing manager is like, hey, Maggie, I'd like to sit down and talk about what's coming out next month. Right. And true. It's just a system. It's just a heartbeat. And so, and what that does is it also creates a little bit of a tidal wave amongst all the employees, because they know it's coming, right? It's like just like any other kind of cadence that you have. So I think that is the really hard part to get momentum, because as a product manager, I'm sure you've shipped products that no one uses because marketing never told anybody about it, right?
Yep.
And this avoids that. On the engineering side, I think that comes down to just somewhat of like good engineering management, whatever technique you use, which is feature freezes or betas. Here, what we try to do, and this wasn't always true early on, but I think now, is we usually aim for at least 5 beta customers
Mm-hmm.
well before the launch. And we've built that into our system because the product marketing managers are going to want quotes and stories from them.
Right. The social proof.
The social proof. And
I think
so,
I might actually be the reason why we had to make that a rule.
yeah, why is that? You want to
Because
tell that story?
I was on a marketable moment with no beta customers.
With no beta customers. That was not a super fun one. What did we learn in that?
Never do that again.
No, but why?
This is why having your boss on a podcast is tough. I think the biggest thing I learned on that was that we didn't know, we had a lot of assumptions about how something would be used and when it would be used and what it would be important for, but we learned very quickly that it was too hard for customers even to find where we had put the link to the feature. And then we learned that the value wasn't exactly as what we thought it was. And so our messaging wasn't super correct. Where we put it wasn't super correct. We could have made it a lot better if we'd even had one person give us feedback.
Yeah.
So
we always had like kind of an unwritten rule of these beta users, but it became a written rule thanks to Maggie here. I think it's a good practice nonetheless. We learned from it and we iterated. That's one of the great things about doing this 12 times a year is we learn really quickly and we build up the system and make it kind of bulletproof. So right now, what most of the things that you'll see us ship, actually all of the things have been in the wild for at least 4 to 6 weeks. So that removes a lot of the risk of something breaking last minute or something like that. Now, was that always true? No, there were early days of Drift where it was like, the Friday before, and it's like, oh my God, the thing doesn't work, and we're scrambling over the weekend. But
I think that also built up a cultural norm on the team that we don't miss those dates, right? And I think that part of the commit to a date and hit the date is that everyone has to believe in the date, right? It's not just a random date, because I think I've been on other teams, other companies where we say something like, oh, we're gonna be done with this on this day, and the date comes and you're not super done or you're close, but there's no pressure to get the thing out the door. But having those really hard deadlines that are public, that even not only public to the company but public to the market, mean that you don't have an excuse not to hit them.
Right. Yeah. And I think and Elias, who's the CTO and co-founder here, this is something he really believes in, right? Just like pick a date. And he'll sometimes corner developers until they pick a date. And then it's amazing that when you set that one constraint, how just it simplifies everything, because you're like, oh, okay, I only have 2 weeks, so I can't do everything. So I'm just going to do this one thing. And so, yeah, I think that when you get into larger companies, and you were in a larger company in the past, and so was I, what the product team does is often like magical to the rest of the organization. They're like, how did they do that? I don't even know how they did that. And when things are going well, that's fine. Like, just magic starts happening. When things aren't going well, it becomes this sense of like, why are they working on that? Like, if they just fix this thing. And so this is another part of the reason for this system is it shows transparency. Like, this is what we're working on, and we're going to hit the date that we're working on it, and we're going to move on to the next thing. And it builds some credibility and a trust amongst the rest of the team. Yeah,
that's true. So then, if you had to give advice to a PM who's listening, how can they start to do this on their teams? Like, what's the first thing that someone should bring back to their team that they can help them sort of move to this model?
Yeah, I think whatever you're working on, start with kind of the good, better, best. I think start with a date, ideally, but start thinking about like what is the reason we're releasing this thing. So I was just talking to a founder who was telling me, oh, we had this concept we drew up on the whiteboard in January, and it's still not live, right? And this is like a 5-person company, small company, and they were asking for my advice. And I said, why? And, oh, it's complex, and it involved like machine learning and all this complex, and there was all the normal things, right? So, and that's normal. That's what's going to happen. So, what I would recommend to that person, if they could go back in time, is just say, listen, nothing's going to be more than a quarter. Let's just set it. There's just absolutely no way as a small company we can go more than a quarter, or even as a small team. So I'd say, just minimally, the maximum date you can set is 3 months out. Right. Like, so set that date, and then work backwards and say, okay, what do we think we can get in that 3 months? In that 3 months, and you'll probably get like the better/best version. It'll be lot of feature bloat and a lot of gold plating, and then reduce from there. Then apply the good, better, best. And what you'll probably realize that in 4 to 6 weeks, you can release something pretty good. And then I would then focus on that. If it happens to take you 4 to 6 weeks to release it, and then another 4 to 6 weeks of beta testing and like making sure it works, then you still hit your 3 months, but it's a pretty good tight experience.
Right.
That's what I would do.
And I find that you often never need all of the things you thought you would need in the best version. Like, I don't think I've ever gone all the way through a whole list of things that we thought would be good to have in a feature when using this model, because you realize customers don't care.
Yeah, and when they do care, they pull the rest out of you.
Right.
And then the prioritization becomes really easy, right? Like you can go, like you could come to me and say, I know we had this team on this feature, but I really think they need to go here because our growth in our user base, like there's one capability we released recently that is like 45% month over month growth of like usage. It's insane. And so obviously Maggie was like, I think we need like a team on this just to like breathe life into it and take it full to its better and best version. And that was a really easy decision because the customers were pulling it out of us.
Right.
On other things, there's some things like the one you said that you know didn't work as well, right? And it makes an easy decision. And it's like, thank God we didn't spend more than that time on it.
That's true.
So
okay, so then I have another question about advice for people who are listening. First, take a step back from it, from just being able to ship on a certain date and hit those deadlines. Like, you've trained many PMs in your career. What's the biggest piece of advice that you give to new PMs that you work with?
Yeah, mostly it's very liberal arts related stuff, not the technical part. So read more than anyone you know. Okay. And I have some tips on what to read, but just read about business, read about the industry you're in. Just do whatever you can to just learn as much as you can. Just communicate with everyone. Just spend a lot of time understanding your peers, your coworkers, the key stakeholders. And then, like, even if your company is not customer centric, which a lot of companies aren't, quite frankly. Talk to more customers than anyone in the company. So it's like read so you learn from people who made mistakes before you. Make relationships with all your peers because you're going to need them someday. Right. To help you either in whatever. In either getting a new product out the market or maybe on a sales deal, they might need you to help out. And then, talk to your customers. I mean, there's nothing that stops a conversation faster than when, let's say, a senior executive is saying, like, we got to work on X. And you're like, oh, it's interesting because, like, I just talked to so-and-so and so-and-so from our 2 biggest customers, and they don't want that. They want Y. Right. And it's like, oh, geez, you win the battle every single time, right? So talk to customers. So
similar to that, but on the flip side, if you are not in product, but you are in sales or marketing or ops or something else, and you have that feature, you've been talking to customers or you have an insight, what's your advice to them on how to get their features built? Like, how do you approach a product team?
Yeah, this is something I actually gave a presentation to the whole LogMeIn and product and engineering team about how to get your idea shipped.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I'll share that with you. But it was the first thing to do, and this was like an engineer who's like, I have an idea, and we have like 500 engineers. And I'm like, how do I get like anyone to care about this to ship it? And the first thing is like, understand the strategy. If you as an engineer or a designer or just an individual contributor understand the overall business strategy, how that translates into product strategy, and let's say I'm on a team that rolls up to you, and I know the 3 things that Maggie cares about, like I know Maggie has to drive this metric, then I'm going to align my idea to her metric. Right. And I talked about tracer bullets. Show that it can happen, right? I mean, if you're an engineer, the version of that for sales and marketing, which happens all the time here, is give me customer evidence, right? Yeah. And I think the best type of customer evidence is getting the product person on the phone with the customer or on a Zoom call or...
And no product person would usually say no to that.
No, they would almost
Right.
Yeah, because every product person has a insecurity of, am I talking to enough customers?
Right.
So when everyone's like, hey, can you jump on the phone with a customer? Like, whew, yes, I
Yeah.
feel better about my day if I do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it just happened yesterday. We were talking. We have a pretty big customer who's been super successful on Drift, had a couple nags in the product, and there was all these Slack messages running around about it, and they're hitting up you and me and a few other people.
Yep.
And then yesterday I got on like a 20-minute call with them finally after like a week, and I was like, oh yeah, we can fix these things. And it's like,
Right.
bing bing, let's get it done, right? It's
Yep.
because I felt I was more empathetic, I felt the pain, and I was able to do it.
Yep. Okay, so understand the strategy, bring customer evidence.
Yep.
Is that it?
I think, or
I'm not even
build
really
it,
sure what else.
traceable it if
Yeah,
you can, right?
okay.
I mean, ship some version of it,
Yeah.
even if it's a PowerPoint. We'll
Oh,
do
yeah,
that.
that's
Our part business development, our head of BD, Jared, does that a lot, where he'll throw a PowerPoint and be like, check out how this integration works.
I actually got one from, I think, Brendan and Castillo in sales. They
Oh,
did
really?
one. Mm-hmm.
That's
They
awesome.
did one a couple months ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how to ship, you have to commit to a date, give everything a name, tell a simple story, and actually hit the date that you set. And then if you want to get your feature built, you need to understand strategy and specifically the product strategy, what metrics we care about, and bring evidence from customers.
Yep. Ideally,
Awesome. Ideally.
in a customer call, like get face to face.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
your best way to move the agenda.
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
Yep. Give Craig a 6-star review. I'm only asking for 5 stars, but Craig needs a 6-star review because he's my boss.
Oh,
so thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.